Join me to paint this easy, snowy winter scene with cute geese in the foreground using watercolor. I hope you will enjoy this painting process as much you enjoyed the sheep and the snowman painting. And we are going to use the same idea here, which is the lifting technique. I will show you an easier way to shape the form and structure of each goose, and I will try to explain it so you can bring your own geese to life in your painting as well. I start by wetting the paper, covering about 3/4 of its height as you see in the video. Then I use Payne's grade to paint the background. I'm working with medium value of Payne's gray because if the value is too dark, then lifting the pigment won't give a clean paper white because it might leave a light gray stain even after lifting the pigment. That's why it's better to stay within the medium range and avoid any darker values near the horizon. After painting the background, I elevate the board and any excess pigment that gets collected near the masking tape is wiped using a waistcloth. Next, I sprinkle table salt over the wet paint. After that, I take a tissue paper and press my finger into it and create the shape of my finger. Then I lift my finger out and press the tissue again to form a small tool which I use to lift the pigment with more control. Next, using this tissue paper tool, I start lifting the pigment in a circular shape to form the first goose. This one is a female goose, so its neck is shorter. I begin by making a round shape for the body and a small projection at the back to represent the feathers. After that, I use that tool to lift the pigment near its neck and for its head. Next, we are going to lift the pigment for another goose. I start by making a D shape for its body and then lift the pigment for the neck and head. While lifting the neck here, I make the neck longer to show that it is a male. It is important to work quickly because lifting the pigment should be done before the paint starts to dry. Once it dries, you won't be able to lift the pigment effectively. When the tissue gets stained with paint, we should move to a clean spot on the tissue and repeat the same process. That is, press your finger onto the tissue to create the finger shape, then pull off your finger and press the tissue again to form a nice tool for lifting the pigment. You will need to repeat this whenever the tip of your tissue tool becomes stained with paint. Next, I wet the foreground and add shadows on the snow using light value of Payne's gray. You can see that the salt has created a nice texture. Now we have to dry the paper completely using a hair dryer, and after that I gently scrape off the salt. Next, we move on to add details on the geese. For that, first I start with a light value of Payne's gray to add shadows near the neck and the body of the goose. When I start painting the shadow near the bottom of the neck, I extend it into the body to show the connection between the neck and the body. That is, I add a light value of Payne's gray along the neck where it meets the body. Next, I wet the body of the goose, and using Payne's gray, I add shadows near the tummy of the goose and at the top of the neck to show the separation between the neck and the body. Now, using permanent orange, I paint the beak. To add the shadows under the beak, I use burnt umber. I paint the eye with Payne's gray and then use permanent orange for the feet. I paint the feet in a way where one foot is slightly lifted and the other rests on the ground, so it looks like the goose is walking on the snow. Since the tummy doesn't look three-dimensional, I add another layer of Payne's gray near the tummy to slightly increase the value and give it more depth. Next, I start painting the details on the second goose. First, I'm adding a light value of Payne's gray near the neck to create the shadow. And again, here also I extend that shadow into the body to show the connection between the neck and the body. After that, I wet the tummy area and use Payne's gray to paint the shadow near the tummy. Next, I'm adding 2 strokes at the back of the goose to suggest the shadow of its feathers. This is to imply that the feathers are there and we are only hinting at them with a bit of shadow. Now I'm adding its beak and eye just the way we did earlier. Since this goose is facing sideways, one foot should appear slightly longer than the other, but the both feet are resting on the snow. Here also we are adding shadows using burnt umber for the feet. The final step is to paint the shadows under the geese. I start with a light value of Payne's gray to place the shadow, and then I use a damp brush to soften any hard edges. After that, I use a medium value of Payne's gray and add it right under the geese to show the cast shadow changes its value from medium value to light value. And that's it, we have finished a beautiful winter scene. I hope you enjoyed watching it. See you in another video. Until then, take care and bye bye from Prema.